Anyone on the path of healing might come across dark entities at some point along their journey. And dark entities are exactly what they sound like. So, to first put this straight, there's whole other planes of information out there. So, this physical reality that you're experiencing right now is not the be-all and end-all of existence. This is actually just a tiny figment of a much grander network of planes and dimensions and spirits and beings and all this crazy stuff that we can't even comprehend. So, often beings, if they don't go down the path of healing and the path of light, which healing inevitably leads to the path of light, they end up going down the path of darkness. So darkness is not deliberate in most cases. Darkness comes from a wound. So let's use an example for yourself, right? So if you're a wounded person, just say you had a shitty childhood and you had some experiences in life which were very traumatic and you didn't know how to heal from it, you didn't have much support, so it ends up stagnating and becoming a whole other issue. So it's not because you actually want to exist in this realm of suffering and hatred and whatever it is that you're experiencing, it's because you are wounded. So people who do the worst things, people who rape, people who murder, people who torture, people who just serve themselves and no one else and throws every single person under the bus just to serve themselves, they are doing this because they are wounded. They are lacking light, they are lacking healing, and this is what causes them to go down this route. It's not because it is conscious, it's not because it's deliberate. It's because they don't know how to get over their own suffering and their own negativity, so they get bogged down into it, and it becomes a whole other issue, so they end up spreading it to other people. And that's sort of the journey of someone who is going down the dark path. They are wounded, they don't know how to get out of their wounds. So, with this perspective, dark entities are essentially the same thing. So, many entities have been humans once upon a time. So, perhaps they had shitty lives and they died with shitty lives. They died when they were feeling a lot of pain and a lot of suffering, and they never actually healed from those patterns and transcended that suffering. So, they ended up going down this route, and it doesn't just get erased when you die. So your spirit carries that energy with you. Your spirit carries that suffering and that dysfunction with you, whether it's to another lifetime, whether it's to another reincarnation, whether it's to another place, or maybe you just get stuck in sort of this limbo between dimensions, so to speak, and you don't know how to move on, but you exist in this state of suffering and torture and torment because you are wounded and you don't know how to get out of that. And because you're stuck there, you become even more and more lost, because you might be there for thousands and thousands of years and no one knows how to help you, no one can perceive you, no one can see you. So you end up getting worse and worse and worse, where pain and dysfunction and suffering becomes the only thing that you understand. So this is how monsters are made. Monsters are not just born that way. Monsters come from wounds. Monsters come from being unhealed, from not going down the path of light and healing themselves, which healing themselves leads down the path of light. So knowing that, first of all, for dark entities, for spirits that want to do harm, which want to hurt you, can you feel a little bit of compassion for them? This is the first question. Even though they want to harm you, even though they want to destroy you, and they're definitely not pleasant to experience or look at, because they do exist, there is a lot of other stuff out there. It's not just this physical dimension. There's a lot of stuff out there. There's a lot of entities and beings and forms of consciousness in these other dimensional realms that you can interact with, that you can experience, especially if you start getting into spiritual crafts such as astral projection, out-of-body experiences, if you're working with shamanic medicine such as Ayahuasca, San Pedro. These things do exist and you do experience them. And I assure you that many people, probably people you know as well, have experienced negative entities and attachments and all these sort of things, that they do want to harm you in some sort of way. So first of all, can you have compassion for these broken entities, knowing that it is really not their fault? They just didn't know how to heal. They They have been stuck in this state of torture for such a long time that hatred, pain, suffering, anger, resentment, horror, this has become their entire lives. They don't know anything else besides this. So, of course, they're going to continue on with these patterns and continue harming because this is the only thing that they understand. And this is important. It's important to actually look at it from this perspective, because if you do encounter some sort of negative entity along your spiritual journey, you need to know how to actually deal with it, how to interact with it. So first, it doesn't harm you, and best case scenario, you actually help it cross into the light and recreate itself into a light being, or at least renew its existence. Like everything gets wiped clean and it starts again, goes through all the karmic loops, and has another chance at existence, essentially. So, first, can you show compassion for evil entities, for dark spirits, for things that want to hurt you? Can you show compassion for people who want to do negative things? Can you show compassion for people out there who have done the worst possible things to you, that have caused you to suffer tremendously? Can you show compassion knowing that these people are wounded, that these people exist in a state of suffering? They exist in a state of their own personal hell, which is suffering, which is darkness, which lacks light and love and compassion. So, moving on, if you do experience a dark spirit, so just say you're in an ayahuasca ceremony and you're with shamans, you're with trained people who understand this realm of information, and you are connecting to these energies, to these spirits, to these entities, and you start to see something pop up near you and it's really trying to harm you or damage you or scare you in some sort of way. All you know is that your intuition is screaming at you saying, I need to get the fuck away from this thing because I don't like it. It feels wrong, it feels bad, and I don't want to have anything to do with it. When you do experience some sort of dark entity, it's very important to ground yourself and to sit within your power, knowing that these entities can't actually harm you. So it's important to remember this, that negative entities, dark entities, cannot harm you. They can try, and believe me, they will try to harm you. But if you don't allow them to, if you don't allow them to provoke negative emotional reactions, such as anger or fear, or resentment or sadness, or maybe suicidal tendencies, then you aren't feeding them, you aren't giving them anything. They can't actually harm you. So the way that these entities do harm you is by provoking these reactions. They see your wounds, they see your sore points, and they're going to start prodding into it and try and get you to actually, they're going to try and provoke you to have a negative emotional reaction. So just say you've lived your life in fear and you're worried about things. They're going to start putting images in your head. They're going to start making you as scared as possible. Maybe they'll blow up. Maybe they'll start trying to torment you, trying to playing with your head, trying to make you fear every possible thing. And this is how they actually survive. So negative entities, they feed off this energetic release. So if you are feeling a lot of fear around one of these entities, they are succeeding. They drink that fear. This is like juice to them. This is that sweet, sweet nectar that they actually, that they crave, that they try and get you to release so they can drain you from it, so they can actually drain your energy and suck you dry. And this is going to cause a lot of problems in the future. It is going to suck you dry. You're not going to see the light in the world or the brightness. You're not going to see all the good things if you allow them to actually get to you and provoke these emotional reactions, because they are taking that energy from you. So these negative entities, they will see your wounds, they will see your biggest problems, and they will try to poke around and really get you to create a strong emotional reaction to those problems. they will try to get you to go into this state of fear where they can drink this fear essentially, and maybe they'll blow themselves up and they'll start putting all these crazy pictures in your head of maybe his family dying or your best friends dying, or maybe it's your worst fears coming alive and you're going through these images because they're putting it in there. And essentially, so you start panicking, you start freaking out, and they're absorbing all of that. So they are winning if you allow them to do that. Perhaps if you have had issues with anger in your life, and just say you're an angry person from a wound of your childhood, so something happened, maybe it comes from not being able to integrate a part of yourself. Just say your dad beat you or scolded you for showing any sort of anger when you're younger, so you ended up repressing that and disintegrating that side of yourself. So you have this disintegrated side that is very angry and just wants to express itself. A dark entity might see that and really prod around at that inner child to make you angry, to make you go into these states of rage. And so if it succeeds, if it does get you to go into this state of rage and disintegrate more, then it is, again, drinking up that energy. Rage is such a powerful energetic release, and any negative entity that's going to be like very sweet juice is going to love that energy. It's going to drink up all of that energy and fuck you over by doing so. Perhaps if it is guilt or shame about something that you did, it will really start pushing on memories. It will make you feel more and more guilty. It will make you break down, or at least try to make you break down. And if it does, then again, it's feeding off that energetic release. So negative entities will try to get out any sort of negative energy that they can from you, and they will know you, they will see you, they'll see your aura, they'll see all these things, and they will play what games they can to actually get you to make to have these sort of emotional reactions. They're smart, they're not stupid, they know what they're doing. So when you encounter one, if you encounter one along your journey, and these manifest in all different forms, maybe it'll look like a demonic sort of creature, maybe it's these little like slimy things, maybe it's just like, usually you'll get this feeling, you'll know if it's a dark entity, you'll see it, you'll perceive it, you'll feel it, and you'll know that it's not there to do any good. So first, show compassion, ground yourself, and if you can, show love, show understanding. Don't fall into its games. Don't allow it to provoke any sort of emotional reaction, because you have all the power in yourself. Remember, these are essentially just holograms. They cannot physically harm you, they can only energetically harm you. And if you don't give them that energy, if you don't fall into their games that they play with you, then they cannot actually harm you in any sort of way. And it can be difficult when you see them, because they can be scary, especially if you see some sort of demonic entity. It's going to be scary, it's going to be hard, it might take years of practice to actually be in a state where you are very confident in yourself, where you are grounded in yourself, and you're not going to fall into their games or have any sort of reaction because you know that you are safe. For someone who is inexperienced and has never sort of worked with shamanic traditions or worked with different spiritual modalities, and you see one of these entities, like, yeah, it might be difficult at the start because you don't know what the hell is happening. You don't even know if it's real or not. You might just see it and you don't know how to react to it. You don't know how to get away from it. So you end up freaking out more because you can't get away from it. And it's still there and it's still doing something to you. So you start freaking out more and more and more. And you get caught into this dark cycle where it just starts draining you because you don't know what to do. So again, be in your own center. Don't let it provoke any sort of emotional reaction. Stand in your power knowing that they belong in this dimension, not this dimension. This is the dimension, this is a physical dimension that you're in right now. They do not belong here. This is your dimension. Have that self-respect, have that courage knowing that they're in the wrong place, you're in the right place, and they really cannot actually come out to harm you. So when you do see one, when you see a negative spirit or entity, hold your power, hold this state of compassion, and just hold your ground. It might start trying to play games. It might put images in your head. It might start trying to fuck around with you, especially if you're wounded. It's going to really try. Usually dark entities are attracted to wounded people because they see the wounds. They think it's easy money, essentially. They see that you're a sore spot and that they can easily provoke an emotional reaction that they can feed off because you have a lot of wounds. If you are in your power, it will try to play all of these games. It will try to do what it can to create this reaction. But if you actually do hold your power, then first, usually these spirits will be confused. They'll be like, what the hell? Like, why aren't you falling into these games? Why aren't you afraid of me? Why aren't you being angry or feeling all this guilt? And they might not know what to do. So remember, these are conscious entities. They are intelligent. Well, at least most of them are intelligent. Like, you do have parasites, you do have all these different things out there in the spiritual dimension, but many of these are intelligent beings. So they do think. They do actually, they do think for themselves. They are individuals that think, and they can be confused, and they'll be like, why aren't you falling into these games? And often they'll try even harder to actually scare you. They'll really try their best to provoke some sort of emotional reaction. And if you still hold your ground and come from this place of just compassion and acceptance, they'll get very confused. So often when this happens, they'll just go away. You won't be worth the trouble. They'll be like, oh, this person's too healed. This person knows their shit. They're not going to fall into the games. I'm just going to find someone who's a little more wounded, who's a little less experienced with this sort of things, and I'm going to scare them and feast off them. So if that does happen, there's nothing you can really do about them leaving. But that's good for you, at least, because you scared them away. They're not going to harm you anymore, or at least try to harm you anymore. But there's also an opportunity here. So going back to what I was saying before, these negative spirits, they are wounded. They exist in this state of suffering and this state of pain, and potentially for many, many, many years, that they don't know the light. They don't want to be there. Wounded people don't want to be wounded. Murderers don't want to be murderers. Rapists don't want to be rapists. These people are this way because they are wounded. They just don't know how to heal themselves. They don't know that there's another way, and they're so deep into this darkness that it's become their whole lives, that they think this is the only way forward. So as with spirits, if there is some sort of spirit that is dark, that exists in this state of darkness, realize that they want to be helped. Deep down, they want to be helped. No one wants to exist in this state of darkness and dysfunction and horror and hell. No one wants to be in hell. And even if they put on this image that, they belong there and this is what it is, nothing wants to exist in this state of hell because it sucks. Suffering sucks. There is no being that wants to suffer. Things simply get caught in this state of suffering, and they create this personal hell in themselves because they get caught in this darkness and they don't know how to get out of it. And this is your job, this is your responsibility. If some wounded soul comes to you, to actually snap them out of it and show them that there is another way out of this darkness and that you can help them do it. Because not many people are aware of this. Not many people are aware that there are spirits and there are dark spirits and there are all these crazy intelligent life forms out there, not just in this dimensional plane, but in all these different dimensional planes. There's so many different dimensions right underneath our feet. And it's not a physical location that you go to, it's within everything. It's another property of existence that you can tap into, where our souls exist. So, if this entity stays around, after it's tried all its games, just ask it, put out the intention, can I help you? I genuinely want to help you. Are you okay? I love you. First, this energy of love, this energy of compassion is going to be like poison for it. It's going to hurt it. So if it's staying around and it actually wants to be there, or it's curious and it thinks that you can help it, you know that it is making an effort to be helped. So this is your job, this is your responsibility to actually send out that energy of love and appreciation and gratitude and say that I see you, I see what you are, I see that you have been in hell, that you are still in hell, and I want to bring you to the light. So by affirming it, by actually having a conversation with these spirits, which you can, which often happens telepathically, so you don't need to actually speak when you're communicating with them. If the spirit comes up, or like you have some sort of encounter, often it will just be telepathic, and you communicate by setting the intention, and sort of everything just works itself out. But intend that you want to help it and that you're there to be with it, to be a father to it, to actually help it with its wounds and pull it out of this dark space. And if it's still there and it wants to be there, then pretty much just say, I can help you go to the light. I can help you go to the light. Do you want that? And like sometimes I'll just go on and move off because they won't know what to do. But other times they will say, yes, I want to be helped. And if it does, then often you'll see some sort of manifestation happen. So you might see spirits of light pop up, and they'll sort of take it into another dimension, into a realm, and work with the spirit. You might see it might manifest in like the form of a lightning bolt coming down and hitting it. It might manifest in the form of like some sort of light, some sort of like ceremony or ritual happening where this being is actually being taken out of this darkness to this realm of light, often with guides, often with angels, often with these positive, benevolent spirits that come up and help it. Because benevolent spirits, spirits of light, they need to play by the rules. They can't just take one of these dark spirits. They, of course, being on this plane of light, they need to show respect for every process. They need to say, if you're not ready to be helped, I can't help you, this is your journey. So they are on this level of respect. They can't help them without them actually giving their permission. Dark spirits don't need to play by the rules, but dark spirits can do whatever the fuck they want to actually survive. But spirits of light do play by the rules. So they never want to actually harm these spirits. They see them as wounded souls that need help. And if one of these spirits gives you permission and it says, yeah, like I do want help, I want to stop suffering, I want to get out of this, is there a way, can I do something, like I've been here for a long time, help, then that's when things will start happening, and these spirits will come in and actually acknowledge that it wants to be helped and take it to the light. And that is essentially the end of the darkness for that spirit. It will start again. It'll go through the roots. Its energy will be sort of recreated. So yeah, its energy will be transmuted into something else, and it'll just sort of become part of the cosmos again, then eventually manifest and create another soul, and it'll begin a new journey as a young soul, and pretty much just start again. But without it being helped, it doesn't know how to actually get out of this state of suffering. So that is your responsibility to help it get out of this state of suffering. And as I said, spirits can come in many different forms and figures and shapes. And often when you do start getting deep into spiritual crafts, no matter what it is, like even just through meditation, you can experience spirits. If you're developing psychic abilities where you can read things and you can see auras, often you'll see spirits around the place. You might see, they might almost look like a blur that's sort of moving around. And you'll usually be able to pick up a sense of what it is, what its intentions might be, if it's positive or negative, if it wants to harm you, if it's a being of light. So intuitively you pick this up, and especially if you work with the intuition and you really start refining your sense of intuition and feeling into different things, you will get a feel for spirits pretty easily, and you will see what their intention is pretty easily. So keep this in mind. because you do need to be aware of this if you are sort of going into these traditions and shamanic traditions and working with plant medicines. If you are learning how to astral project, if you are learning how to lucid dream, even like you can experience negative spirits in lucid dreams. So no matter what you're doing, no matter like how deep you're going into your own spiritual craft, sooner or later you probably will start encountering spirits along the way. And there's so many of them with so many different intentions all along the spectrum, from the darkest of the dark to the lightest of the light. And there's so many positive spirits out there and beings of light that you are protected. Like in general, you are protected, especially if you call upon your guides and you call upon these spirits and these angels to help you out and to protect you. They usually will. They will hear you. You do have guides with you. Everyone has guides with you, with us. But inevitably, you probably will experience some negative spirits as well. So see this as they are reaching out to you. They need help. If you see a negative spirit, realize that it wants your help. You are privileged for it to actually be reaching out to you. And as long as you stay in your power and you don't fall into its games, you don't allow it to provoke any sort of negative emotional reaction that it can feast off, then you can actually help this spirit go transition to the light and get out of the state of hell, the state of suffering that it's been in for a very long time. So with that being said, good luck on your journeys, and make sure that you are protected. Make sure that you protect yourself when you're sort of dabbling around with different modalities and different spiritual pathways, let's put it, because there is a lot of shit out there that most people aren't even aware of. Most people aren't even aware that these dimensions exist. So yeah, just have your wit about you. Realize that there is a lot of stuff out there. There are entities of all sorts, and that you will, at some point, probably come across some. So remember, they can't hurt you. Stand in your power. Use it as an invitation to help these spirits, and you are well on your way. So thank you for listening. If you like this video and you want more content like this, please like, subscribe, comment, share, support. Because I'm really starting to get into this now, really starting to go deep into the whole spiritual realm, into shamanic traditions, especially with plant medicines, and I am conveying what I'm learning now. I want to start teaching everything that I'm learning and experiencing for myself, because I actually had a ceremony where I saw some negative spirits and just called upon higher beings to sort of help me out and push them back. So these things are out, these things are real. And if you want more content, if you want to hear more about sort of these experiences and what I'm learning along my shamanic journey, then yeah, please show your support so I know what you want and how I can be of service. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your days.